see you guys in the dark.
I was around 9 years old when this happened. My parents had separated for about 2 years. My mom, dad, and I were always very poor. At the time, my parents were trying to build a house in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in our city, a place overrun by drug trafficking, but it was all they could afford. Otherwise, we'd be on the streets. The house was never finished. It was half built rooms, piles of construction material everywhere, bare red bricks with mold and water damage. It was crumbling, much like my parents' relationship and my childhood. My father was very violent, unfaithful, and never helped with anything. Then one night, out of nowhere, I woke up to my mom shaking me awake, throwing a jacket over my shoulders, telling me that we had to leave. We moved to another city and stayed with relatives for 2 years before coming back. That's when this story really begins. My mom and I had moved into a place my father didn't know about. We later found out that he had been asking around the city, trying to find out where we were. Eventually he did. I was still very young at the time, and despite everything, I begged my mom to let me see him. A court had ended up granting him visitation rights every other weekend, and for about a year, that's what we did. By then, he had a new partner, and still lived in that old decrepit house. I spent weekends there. As awful as the place was, my younger brother also lived there, and we were very close. My stepmom had a child with Dad while he was still with my mom. My brother is about 3 years younger than me. We would play in empty lots, using broken construction material, rusted furniture, and bottle caps as our imaginary theme park. Company and imagination can save a child's life. My father used to tell me that he was going to get back with my mom. He told me not to let any man get close to her. At the time, I secretly hoped for a happy family, even though I liked my stepmother. Truth is, he didn't even really take care of me during those visits. I mostly stayed with my brother and his partner because he was completely incapable of caring for a child. One weekend, something strange happened. It was nearly time for him to return me to my mom, but instead of following our usual routine, he suddenly ordered his girlfriend and my brother to leave the house. She started to protest, but he shouted at her until she left without another word. Then he took me down the hill. The house was on a steep hill, to a place that I'd never seen before. We had arrived at a woman's house that I had never met before. When we arrived at the woman's house I didn't recognize, he had introduced us, and then told me I'd be staying there for a little while. But first the woman handed me a big glass of chocolate milk, which was my favorite. She was very nice, and she smiled at me warmly when she brought it from the kitchen, so I drank it. Very quickly I started feeling incredibly sleepy. Everything faded to black. When I opened up my eyes again, I was back in my father's house. My mom was there, screaming and crying. He stood right in front of her, panicking, repeating, "Don't do this, don't do this." She scooped me up like I was still a toddler and carried me outside. It was the middle of the night. The streets were completely empty, but she didn't stop. She carried me all the way to the bus stop, and we waited. Then we left. Years later, I found out what really had happened. He had kidnapped me. Instead of taking me to the designated drop-off location, he brought me to another woman's house, a mistress, and then drugged me. He showed up to the meeting point alone, told my mom that she would never see me again unless she agreed to get back together with him. Then he walked away. My mom completely had lost it. She ran to his house screaming, but he wasn't there. So she waited at the door until he had showed up. When he did, she threatened to have the local drug dealers kill him if he didn't take her to where I was, and he believed her. It was late. She was screaming loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, and he knew that she wasn't bluffing. So he went back to the woman's house, got me, and brought me home. That's when I had woken up. That's when I saw her, hysterical, terrified, and somehow still strong enough to carry me out of that. Me and my friend, both 20 at the time, were students at the university in Midwest Wales. Nothing much ever happened there, aside from typical university student activities going out drinking, taking drugs, smoking weed, and man, we had smoked a lot. One evening, we were invited out to go to an event of his, some sort of ceremony for one of his social clubs, at the local cocktail bar. The drinks were flowing, and we were having a nice time. And after a couple of hours, we noticed someone we knew. It was one of our old weed dealers we hadn't seen in around a year or so. He noticed us too, and decided that he would come join us for a drink. For this tale, we'll just call him Harry. As we were all catching up, we asked how Harry was doing. "I'm all right. but one of my friends got stabbed earlier. We were shocked. But Harry was originally from London, so I wasn't as surprised as we should have been. An hour or so later, we decided it was enough of the drinks, and it was time for us to unwind with a joint. Oh, you guys can smoke back at my place if you would like. So me and my friend, who we'll call Bill, decided to go. Harry also picked up two other people from the bar, a couple, but I didn't know either of them. As we walked to Harry's place, we stopped off at the corner of the local spar store, where we noticed a wet puddle on the floor. So my friend that I told you about, that's his. And then suddenly we realized that this was a puddle of blood, a big, giant puddle of blood. Realizing the sort of company that I was with now, a drug dealer that comes from London, I wasn't feeling super great about going to his house now. Everything felt off about this. But I didn't want him to see me intimidated by this. He was my friend. At least we acted like friends. But in all honesty, I don't really know this guy. Maybe I just wanted to look cool in front of him. I'm not sure. But all I know is I didn't want to go there now. It's already felt too late to do anything about it. We continued down the street to his house, which is the same direction the blood came from. It's trailed all down the street. I almost half expected to find a body at the end of this trail. There was that much of it. We got outside of his house, and he stopped and turned to us. We looked down, and lo and behold, another puddle of blood. He opens the front door and lets us in, locking the door behind us. So my friend that got stabbed, he says, he got stabbed on the doorstep right here. And even though I saw the evidence and had a million thoughts running through my head, I just couldn't seem to believe it. Apparently, he got into a dispute with another one of Harry's friends while inside the house. Something about someone's girlfriend, and he stabbed him right there on the doorstep in the street. This was a Saturday night as well, so it wasn't like it was a quiet day. All of us are feeling pretty nervous by now. And although he said his friend, how are we really supposed to know what really happened? We all sat down on the couches, surrounded by a bunch of takeaway boxes that were filled with rocks. On closer inspection, the boxes were filled with MDMA, and each box had a lot of it in there. Now, I've been around drugs before. However, this much was enough to scare me, even with all the bloodbath on the doorstep. The couple had tried to take a photo of the stash. Before he could, Harry ran out and then punched the phone out of his hand, threatening him not to do that. I need to smoke a joint more than ever now. Although I think that it would probably make me paranoid at this point. Despite my worry of paranoia, we rolled one and asked if we could sit on the bathroom floor and smoke them. The night gets weirder and weirder. We smoked without a worry, and then we sat back on the couch. As we did, a boy walked through the door. He was probably around 18, but had one of those faces that looked around 13. He was in a full tracksuit, and his eyes were as wide as I'd ever seen open eyes before. He was high as hell. I couldn't tell what on, but he was high. He took it upon himself to enter the room, walked between all of us, freestyle rapping, and sporadically doing keys around us. Harry was loving it, cheering him on, while the rest of us just sat silently and watched him. We were waiting for something to go awry. Could this have been the stabber from before? We hadn't seen anyone else in the house, and someone of this guy's caliber almost likes it would be something that he would be around all the time, especially if he was from London as well. However, the big guy had soon left, and Harry asked if we wanted to smoke another one. We better get going. I'm tired, I say. That last one had put me on my ass, looking for a reason to get out. Surprisingly, Harry was very reasonable with this, unlocked the door for us. Me and Bill had headed out the door, and then we stomped home as quickly as possible, following the trail of blood back up to the street.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.